Hi everyone, it's Christmas Day and 1 week left until 2022's last breath. Everyone's getting present here and there, including us, from none other than our old friend, Gamigo. Yes, my friend, AK is closing down. Well, not really, but it is still a surprising news in multiple level. So, as a former active player, content creator, and game sage, I would like to talk about it. Before we start, I have not been in touch with AK community, both Discord nor in-game. So this is purely self-research based on what I experienced up until I left the game for good, which is 16 September 2021. First, let's read our lovely community manager's CM Lotus announcement. It states below, "Dear and Voice of Gaia, in order to provide you with a better service in the next year, we must close some of our old infrastructure and technology. This means the area game portal and backend will be closed by the end of February next year. Aura Kingdom will move to the developer's own service, X Legend. So do not be worried about your progress. It's all can be transferred. In order to receive the transfer code, just make sure that your email that's connected to your account is active." Unfortunately, that's all we can say about this matter. So please keep in touch with us until we publish the upcoming FAQ soon. We also recommend spending all your AP because it's not going to be transferred. Best regards, Gamigo team. Okay, so this is not a shutdown, but a migration. Basically, X Legend, the developer, are now taking matters into their own hands to take care of the global players, us. Well, that sounds good, right? Now we don't have to wait so long for patches or bug fixes, right? Well, not really. In my view, this is actually a bad omen. Let's put my first hypothesis. Gamigo are supposedly shutting down AK and the other games for good. And that X Legend is here is pure luck. Look, I know it might sound very pessimistic, but I'll explain it. Let's go back in time and see how things ended up here to begin with. You see, I hope you realize it by now that AK has been on Lifeline for as long as I remember. It has been on steady decline every month, weeks, even days. Take a look at the Steam chart data, for example. It may not represent everyone, but it pretty much gives you an idea on how it's going over there. I would assume that standalone client users are at double, triple at best during peak hours. AK has also been delisted from the Steam store, so there is zero new user from Steam, only those who has the game on their library. The Whales and Dolphins has been keeping it alive for years with barely any significant long-lasting growth to the player base. For a PC live service, this is barely enough. Not to mention, other Gamigo games are basically on the same boat. The first sign that I remembered started when they are desperate for players to stay on AK alone. Around this time, I'm still a game sage. There was this rule that says, do not promote another game, but if you're just talking, then it's fine. And then it became, please minimize talk about off-topic games. And finally, you guess it, they completely forbid any off-topic games talk. I was once warned when I was game sage because I had another game as my Discord playing game status. I'm not kidding. To be fair, it is an AK server, and this rule makes sense in a way. But completely locking the community to AK, it's not a good idea. I also remember I was told to warn a player that simply mentioned another game name on a conversation. It's just ridiculous. Not everyone discuss AK 24/7. Everyone has another game to play with the community that they made on AK. So, instead of hanging around on AK server, whether in-game or Discord, to have a small chat, they just left. These rules greatly discourage them, reducing the chance to even come back at all. It sounds simple, but it has a long-lasting effect if you see it as a whole. Fun fact, this is also related to my reasoning why I left the game stage. And then we have the forum. It started to glitch, some image just won't load, or it loads very slow, and soon enough, forum is just gone. The awful part is, they never mention about it being terminated. Instead, they kept sugarcoating it as maintenance. It's just down. There is no estimated when it comes back up. Even the present time game stage are not informed, or worse, they were told to say otherwise. So much for transparency. I do miss the Grenadier, Guardian, and Ravager old forum though, the one from 2013 and 2014. Also the live chat. That was a gold mine. Next, we have the Discord merge. Community from all over the world are now one whole AK family in one server. Except it's not, because it's still separated by language channel. This means only one thing for me. There is barely any activity over there. Keeping a dedicated server isn't worth the time and effort. Not to mention, there is probably community managers layoff during this time. More on that later. Now we know about the constant declines. This affects the in-game economy real hard. To me, a live service game is dependent on three main things. The gameplay, the combat, is the stuff that you do in the game, and then the storyline and lores. It explains why you do that thing. And lastly, the ones that drive the two factors, the players. With auction or market system, economy will play a role as it partially affects the game monetization. Declining player base means declining in both demands and supply, as the item is based off player grinds. This forced them to sell it very low, because there is low demand, and even if a certain item has low supplies, they cannot sell it high, because again, there is not many demands. This creates a loop that prevents items to sell high other than Paragon items. Or should I say, Paragon? Because apparently, the repeat has gone out of hand. Some Paragons are now repeated not just twice, but even 3 times or more. So you can imagine how the market goes. Paragon and Ruby coin goes hand in hand. Hence, it's a popular choice among whales and dolphins to spend their money on. Ruby coins are one of the main monetization for this game. And as a bonus reward for this spender, they have what they call a tiered spender. As of 24th of December, the monthly tiered spender is still nowhere to be found and likely won't return at all. All of this on top of the hundreds of technical errors that the game has. Some are brand new, some more are even from 2016 that are still here. Login issues, the unstable connection experience, the overall quality assurance has clearly fallen too low, or close to non-existent. Problem after problem just keep reoccurring. Well, that's all from the game side of story. But what about GamingGo themselves, our protagonist? Unfortunately, I cannot find much info on whatever they are doing. There is barely any news press, publication, etc. So I'll use whatever I could find easily. Also, please understand, I'm not smart enough to understand some of this topic, so I'll only scratch the surface. Some sources may or may not be credible, but I tried my best to find it all. GamingGo was acquired by Media and Games Investment SE or MGI on 2020. However, this is the year that the stock market crashed, and that likely encouraged them to cut some corners. Even on their website investor financial report and news on the Gamigo site, it all stopped updating beyond 2020. Gamigo are known as a game killer. They're also known to do massive layoffs regularly. Yes, regular layoffs. We have the 2018 layoffs. This was the time when Gamigo bought Trion Worlds. A report states that they laid off up to 87% of its employees. And then we have the 2021s, affecting Rift MMO, just 2 weeks after they shut down Twin Saga, Eden Eternal, and Defiance, which much likely includes some layoffs as well. Now this year alone, 2022, there is 2 layoffs. Actually might be 3. The first one is March, which affected Rift and a handful of Trove staffs, and said to also affect few other games. The second one is due to the Wolf team shutting down. While there are no public news about the layoffs, but knowing Gamigo and their history, at least one employee is clearly let go. And the hot topics one, December, just before holiday season, Aura Kingdom, Grand Fantasia, Last Chaos, and Shaya are being let go, which indicates another round of layoffs, not including the departure of multiple community managers, product coordinator that just disappears out of nowhere, and probably more unreported cases in between or even before. As a former game sage, I could notice the change when a certain staff is missing or dead silent, and when I ask, the answer is either reallocated or straight up no longer with us. It's scarier when they say, yes, they're still here with us, but there is no life signs on said individual. Some of you newer audience probably don't realize it, but our community managers, product coordinator, the staff basically, used to talk more freely on Discord. There were more interaction back then, and now I feel like all the joys has disappeared. With all the chaos happening internally, I wouldn't be surprised if they were actually being silenced. And the worst part of these layoffs just about to come. They realized that they lack the manpower to run their services, so they ask the players to volunteer as a game master and moderators. Now, this is an example of fractured online. Note that it's volunteer, so no one is getting paid in formal manners, while they are expected to do what their role is supposed to do. This is another story of mine from another fellow old game sage. They were asked to moderate on another game Discord while they were still an active game sage on a certain game. Like, what the fuck? Moderating community alone is fine for a volunteer, but expecting to do the job of an actual game master, unpaid on top of that, they're really out of their mind. It's been on my mind recently, but all game sage, both AK and outside, are becoming more of free labor instead of just a simple community moderator. Now that all makes sense to argue towards the game shutdown, but what about the XL intervention here? My guess is that they still want to milk us dry with whatever monetization they plan. Excuse me if all my speech is filled with negativity and pessimistic, because I really don't see any good cause that they want to save their own game, arguable with low player base as well. Because this means that they need to allocate some of their current workforces to handle global version, both technical and community, server costs, and all the necessary stuff to provide the service, which may or may not lead to slow pace of patches, limited scale event, and you name it. To be honest, the development of AK has been a flight line for long. There is nothing exciting other than slight power creep with new equipment type, reusable buffs, and more. story is not the strong point of AK either. Combat is the same. With the equipment power creep, any class can do anything just fine with the powerful equipment. Events are basically repetitive chores like what you would expect on mobile games. The main difference is that you use keyboard and mouse here. That's pretty much what I have to say about this case as a whole. There is clearly nothing going on Gamigo's favor that suggests that this transfer is for the good cause. It has been a dumpster fire for so long. Layoffs, one after another, and all the mismanagement. I knew this was coming since I left the team, and my guess of 2022 is partially correct. And going forward with X Legend, if you are still willing to play, my best advice is do not inhale too much copium. So when they under-deliver, you won't feel much disappointment. I personally still contemplating whether I want to transfer or let my legacy go, but time will tell. What do you think about this migration? I'm really curious if you guys have any words on this. So, you can leave it in the comment if you do. As my last words, please do not harass any individual shown in this video. They may have done something bad, but most of these are mainly driven by the higher-ups' executive ridiculous decisions. Also, Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, and Happy New Year! I hope you enjoy your time during this festive season, alone or in groups. Until my next video. Bye bye.